So I'm gonna cut right to the thing that everybody is asking about first, and which is a film that I'm actually the producer on, along with about 15,000 other people, Super Troopers 2.
That crawl is going to be quite long.
It's gonna, the print is gonna be so small on it, if you blink, you're gonna miss your name as it goes across. First off,
54,000 supporters.
right,
54,000 backers. Yeah.
that's fantastic. And so when you in the troupe had the script, you've been edging towards it for a while. What made you go with crowdfunding instead of going towards the traditional, we're going to take it to a studio, get it produced, and
Sure.
and go that route?
How much time do you guys have? You guys have 10 years? Well, let's just say when the movie comes out in 2018, it will be 10 years that it took to make that movie. That's how hard. The climate change, I don't know if you guys have seen the documentary, the Defiant ones, but and they're talking about the music industry, and they talk about when digital music came about, it just killed the industry. Well, you know, as Broken Lizard, we had incredible fan support, and like we said, we had 54,000 people who were supporters of Super Troopers 2. The challenge was when we wanted to go make the sequel to Super Troopers 2, which was 2008, as you know, it was probably a very difficult time in a lot of people's lives, but a lot of things changed in the climate of the film industry. And part of it was the DVD market was disappearing because of the digital era. And we had a huge following, and we could go to a studio and say, we sold 5 million DVDs of Super Troopers, and all of a sudden that whole market disappeared. And now the studios were looking to become really focused on only tentpole movies. So if you're a comic fan, it's great because they have 27 Marvel movies in the pipeline and a lot of sort of animated films for children, but they really were getting rid of the small comedy, kind of low to mid-range film. It wasn't fitting in the formula that the current Hollywood formula was going at. So they said, even though we really loved Super Troopers and stuff like that, it just wasn't in that formula of a tentpole movie. And so Fox said, you know, they own the IP for it, so we couldn't really go make it on ourselves. But they said, we'll distribute it and put it in theaters, but we just don't want to take the risk of making it because it wasn't in the model of what Hollywood was doing anymore. And a lot of that had to do with the DVD market. So we kind of had to go prove that we had the backing, and they didn't quite, I don't think they had the finger on the pulse to really understand that there were that many fans out there that wanted to see this film. And so we then had to turn to crowdfunding in order to get it made, because we're kind of a cult following, you know, we're not like the Iron Man and Robert Downey Jr. of the world, right? So like people say, well, why don't you guys just finance it? And even though a lot of people think that we would have the money to finance a film, we don't, right? We have been very grateful and blessed with the following, but we certainly don't have the cachet of making $20 million a movie like Robert Downey Jr. does, that we could just like cash whole film. So
It's not just the bankroll of the flick, it's the insurance, it's all the different pieces that you have to have before you can even get in front of a camera with that.
Oh, it's a tremendous amount of money. It's just amazing how much you have to raise in order to try to make a film anymore. So so we turned to crowdfunding because almost on a daily basis somebody asked, hey, when's the sequel to Super Troopers 2 going to come out? So we knew from our interaction with the fans and people that there was a demand for it, but we couldn't quite parlay that to Fox in order for them to finance it. And so then we had to turn to our fans. We said, hey, let's try to do this together. And which was really cool is that we put the campaign together about let Favre out of the trunk. We said, if you guys want to let Favre out of the trunk, let's try to put together a crowdfunding campaign. And so we had a lot of fun shooting that, which was almost like a mini movie in itself. We took about 6 weeks to do all the videos because our campaign, we wanted to have a different video every day that somebody could keep checking back in every day. And the whole campaign was, if we could reach our goal, we let Favre out of the trunk. And so that became our own almost little mini movie, little mini campaign that led to Super Troopers 2.
Now that it's in the can, you've got distribution lined up for it, a release date of 4/20, fantastic, well done. Is crowdfunding something that you guys would do for a future project like, say, PopFest or something else down the road?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple of different answers to that question. Because the question I get asked on a daily basis really is, did you really chug maple syrup in Super Troopers? And when's Podfest coming out? So in response to what do we do crowdfunding for it, it's a bit complicated because Warner Brothers owns the IP, the intellectual property to it. So after we made Beer Fest and we teased at the end, coming soon, Podfest. And we really did that because we're huge Willie Nelson's fans, and he doesn't drink beer, and we didn't know how else to get him in the movie. And so Jay had directed Dukes of Hazzard with Willie in it as Uncle Jesse, right? So he had a relationship with Willie, and he said, "Hey, would you come act in this movie we're making called Beer Fest?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." So his bus came cruising down through Albuquerque. He popped off like a couple hours. We shot him. He got back on the bus, and he went straight back to Texas. And so we were thrilled just to have Willie Nelson in the movie. But then the teaser came out. We kind of made it as a joke, and people really did take it seriously. It was like on a daily basis. We kept getting asked. And then we started getting incoming calls from like Method Man, 50 Cent, Cheech and Chong, Snoop Dogg. I mean, every single person that smoked weed like called or came into the office. Method Man physically came into our office, and he's like, "Come on, we got to do this." And so we went to Warner Brothers with this like incredible cast of characters of people that wanted to do the sequel. And ultimately they said, well, we're sort of a studio that created Yogi Bear. And they weren't quite sure that they could fully get behind it quite yet. So if we can legalize it across the whole country, there may be a chance to do it. But our hope is that if Super Troopers 2 can be successful, that studios will want to continue to make films, and that we won't have to crowdfund again. But we wanted to be able to show Fox that we had the support of our fans to be able to make it.
Let's go back to making the first Super Troopers. There's a really good chemistry that you guys have on screen, and it comes from performing on stage and being able to know each other's movements and the rest of it. But when you were putting the film together, did you guys have an idea of how far the reach was going to go on the flick?
No, not at all. The deal when we wrote Super Troopers, we had made a movie called Puddle Cruiser, went to Sundance with it. It didn't get picked up. And we really, we were a sketch comedy group. We'd gone to college together. We've been best friends. So we wrote another script. We had an idea for a comedy, and it was about, we had a friend that had a cabin on the border of Vermont and Canada. And we'd go to the cabin, and it was desolate. There's nobody around. And we'd go across the border to get stronger beer. And we'd go across the border to get poutine. And it was kind of like a day trip that we do. And we kind of had this romanticized version of this area that it's really desolate. There's really nothing up there. And we imagine what if police officers had to patrol this area? Kids going across the border all the time. There wasn't a whole lot to do. And God, it must be boring, but you have all this power that you're given and authority. If you had a great sense of humor, you could have a lot of fun. And so that's kind of where the idea came about. And we actually had a friend, a group of guys, this was later, we weren't involved in this car, but a car went across the border. They got pulled over by Border Patrol. A joint somehow rolled out on the floor, and one of the Border Patrol's guys saw it, and he put him in the cell, but not knowing that there was more to it than just that one joint, and a whole guy ate a whole bag to take one for the team. He eventually admitted, in order to get out of the cell, one of the people had to give up who it was, and he gave himself up, and he's never allowed back to Canada anymore. But that was kind of like the impetus of the story of the origin of the opening scene of Super Troopers. And so, the question, I'm a bit tangential, I apologize. My wife is right here, and she will she'll confirm how tangential I am. The original question, she always tells me to stay on.
They're supposed to be tangential.
Yeah.
5-word answers help no one, Eric.
So the original question was, in Super Troopers,
and did you think that the film was going to have the outreach that it wound up having?
So we had this original story of this guy, and we had these ideas for the bear and all these kind of sketches. It was a sketch comedian. We have a bunch of different sketches, and we put it together. And basically, we were just writing something that we enjoyed. And when you're creating something and writing something on paper, you can try to write for an audience, or you can kind of just try to write for what you think makes us laugh. And we spent so much time together going to driving around to live shows and stuff like that. We spent a lot of time in a car together. So it was a lot of contained space. And if something made the 5 of us laugh enough to write it down on paper, we would try to put it in the script as a joke and then try to connect it through a plot. And so there was never anything really in our mind that ever was, will this have a reach? It was really like, we presented our first movie at Sundance and it didn't get picked up, and the idea was, let's try to put together these jokes that we liked again on film. We'll try to get it to Sundance again and hopefully cross our fingers that somebody would buy it. But even though no one bought our first film, we didn't have the expectations that anyone would buy the second one. So we were very grateful.
Talk a little about working with Bill Paxton on Club Dread.
Yeah, it's amazing. We did a screening at the Alamo Drafthouse in San Antonio about a month ago. It was the first time I'd seen the movie screened in many years. And it really had this emotional, I'm still getting it right now when I think about it. Bill died so young, and he was such a vivacious, fun guy. We moved down to Mexico to pre-pro Club Dread, and I'd never met Bill before. But Bill flew down 4 to 6 weeks before the movie started, and we all lived in this small little resort in Mexico together. And he was so generous with his time. I mean, here's a guy that does all these big movies. He's done over $1 billion for movies with Terminator and Alien and everything. And he would take 4 weeks to come down and live with us in Mexico to run through jokes and do scenes. And he got into his character. I don't know if he's method or what you want to call it, man. He grew the hair, and he lived in that sort of Coconut Pete. He played a character, Coconut Pete, which is based on Jimmy Buffett. If you haven't seen Club Dread, we basically wrote a character that did all Jimmy Buffett sort of style songs, but he wrote them before Jimmy Buffett. But Jimmy Buffett got way more famous, so he was a little bitter. So he had written like Pina Clauderberg, and then Jimmy Buffett wrote Margaritaville, and Jimmy got all the fame. And so Bill played this island resort kind of guy, and he embraced it. He came down there and lived it and played with it. He was one of the greatest guys, one of the most sort of absorbed actors, because he was willing to like not just fly in day of, do his lines and get out. I mean, he became one of us for a whole month, which was really cool. So we became really good friends with him after that, stayed in touch. And so one day, I'll tell you guys want to hear a story that still raises hairs in my arm? So my wife Barbara here, we drove from Los Angeles we were driving to San Antonio, and we drove across Texas. And we were going across West Texas, and we were near Ozona. You guys know Ozona? So it was like 10 o'clock at night, and it said like the next city was 100 miles. So we were getting tired, and we decided to pull over in Ozona. And I saw that my phone had rang, but I'm trying to find where I'm getting off. And I see it's Jay Chandrasekhar on here, and I'm like, he'll just leave me a message, I'll get it. And so I didn't pick it up, because we're trying to find the exit and find a place to sleep for the night. And there wasn't anything else for 100 miles out, right? And Bill Paxton's from Dallas, Fort Worth, I believe, around the area, right? So we're going across Texas, Ozona. I get a call from Jay. I let it go to voicemail. We check into the only hotel that's off the side of the road, small little Super 8 or Hampton or something like that. Get in there, little room, little black and white kind of TV in there. And I just discern it's 12 o'clock at night. I turn the TV on, and the first thing that pops up is a picture of Bill in the movie Tombstone. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of strange. Here we are in Texas. The first thing I turn the images of Bill in Tombstone. And we were pretty tired. We've been driving for 8-10 hours that day, so we quickly turn off the television, go to bed. And I'm like, I'll wake up the next morning. I'm like, I totally forgot Jay called. I pick up the phone, I listen to my voicemail, and he says that Bill Paxton passed away.
Wow. That is
Man, that's crazy. He was telling me as a kid, he was at Daley Plaza and he saw Kennedy speak the day before the assassination. And there's a photograph of him as a kid on his dad's shoulder in the crowd, which is pretty amazing. He was really proud of Texas.
Will we ever see you guys tour again as a five-city, or are your schedules so varied that it's just hard to consolidate a 3-month tour?
It's like wrangling cats to do all 5 of us these days. But we did, we headlined the Houston Comedy Festival last year, which was a blast. We had a great time. So every once in a while, something pops up. That was actually part of the Indiegogo campaign. We did some stand-up shows, and one of them was the Houston Comedy Festival, which we headlined, which was a blast. We did Chicago last fall as a 5-man group, and so we may pop up here and there, but we all have our side projects. Jay's always directing TV, Kevin and Steve did a 2-man show. I just directed a sitcom spec that I'm trying to get off the ground right now that I'm finishing editing. We have some ideas for Super Troopers 3. Bouncing around. We've already started kind of outlining some ideas for that. Pretty rough still, but
Let's get to know you're still masochists.
10 more years from now, we'll be a geriatric ward.
Hey, Lynn.
Hopefully that will Super Trooper 2 be successful, we can go more quickly into production in 10 years. We actually we handed a script in 2008, if I remember correctly. Like, we had a script finished for Super Troopers 2 that we went to Searchlight with in 2008, and we handed it in. And now it's 10 years later. It's amazing it takes.
How much changed from the 08 script you turned into Fox to the one you wound up shooting?
Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I remember rereading the script as we were trying to get the money together and thinking, this is solid. Like, we felt like we had a solid script in 2008. But, you just update things. We wanted to make more topical. There's something that happens in the script that kind of is related to certain politics that are currently happening that we wanted to kind of tap into. So it's frustrating. Like, if we had the movie come out, we've tested it, we screened it, we got a really good score in Orange County. So we're very confident about it. And it's finished, like, we had finished all the elements, we did all the post-production, like, it's good to go, but Fox wants a nice large window to market it because they feel very good about it. And then 420 was a great date to put a hook on it. But I want it in theaters this weekend because there's some topical stuff in it that I'm still hoping in 8 months the topicality of it will still be as relevant. But I think it will.
My roommate is a state police officer in Pennsylvania, and he said that the last night before they graduate, it's tradition at Academy that they all get together and watch Super Troopers. So there's something about that. I'm a huge fan of Kevin and Steve's podcast, and some of my favorite episodes are just stories on the road, stories off set, from the different shootings. Do you have something particular that you can share that maybe you haven't in the past, or maybe something from Super Troopers 2 that won't ruin the movie, but like a little funny moment or something from set?
Oh, boy. Because we covered so much territory on that. Like, when we were shooting Super Troopers 2, I think we did 2 podcasts of Steve and Kevin's show. And so I can't imagine there's anything that wasn't covered.
That was just an example. From any of them, anything you've done in the
anything.
past, just something from the road.
Well, I'll tell you, when we were shooting A Little Secret, and Bill always hated this, and I don't think he'll mind me telling this, but when we were living down in Mexico, like I said, we kind of took over this resort, so you could order breakfast every morning when we'd start rehearsals. And every morning he would show up to rehearsal with a stack of pancakes. So every day we're like, wow, pancake. And we're like, Paxton, you love pancakes. And so we started calling him Pancake Paxton. And he'd be like, damn man, don't call me Pancake Paxton. You start calling me Pancake Paxton, everyone's gonna start calling me Pancake Paxton. And so out of respect for Bill, we stopped calling him Pancake Paxton in public, but I still love telling that story. It hasn't really caught him yet, but he loves pancakes. And being from Minnesota, when we were shooting Super Troopers, a question I get asked all the time, which I'm sure you've heard, is, was that really maple syrup? And we first show up to shoot the scene of chugging maple syrup in Super Troopers, and like any responsible prop master, she had put iced tea, unsweetened iced tea, in the bottles. And so she would drop it out in a bucket and fill it up with iced tea, and we do a take, and chug it down, it's no big deal. And Jay said, okay, I felt pretty good, let me go take a look at the monitor. He runs over to the monitor and he comes back, kind of a blank look on his face, and he's like, I think we have a problem. This doesn't look like maple syrup. It looks like liquid. And the prop master is like, they're trying to solve a problem. Like, it's independent film, we had no money. We call a lot of our takes One Take Charlie because we had so little money. Shooting on an independent film budget, we'd often have like 1 or 2 takes to take a shot and then have to move on. I mean, if you didn't get it, we'd rehearse like crazy because you only had 1 or 2 takes to make a shot and you had to move on. If you didn't get it, you just didn't get it. We just didn't have any time or money. And so Chandrasekhar was like, Stolhanske, come on, One Take Charlie, man, we gotta do this. Pick up the maple syrup, you're from Minnesota, you love maple syrup, right? Like, I'm from Chicago, let's just do this. And I didn't even think about it, it's just our style to like try to just be guerrilla, just by nature of what we had to do making independent film. And I don't know, somehow it persuaded me because I'm from Minnesota, I love chugging maple syrup. And so we just had these bottles of maple syrup down here, and it's just like, all right, go, action. It's just start chugging bottle after bottle of maple syrup. And after all the different takes, wide, over the shoulder, close-ups and stuff like that, like after an hour, I chugged 2.5 full bottles of maple syrup.
That's a wonderful question.
And we didn't even think about it. At the time, it just happened so fast and so quickly, and we wanted to get the shots done. And then all of a sudden, I was like, great, I think we got it. Great, let's break for lunch, everybody.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone breaks for lunch, all happy, and all of a sudden, Jay and I are like, oh my God, we both just chugged 2 full bottles of maple syrup, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't feel so good. Like, I don't feel so good either. And Jay tried to go throw up, but he like comes out of the bathroom. He's like, "It won't come up, bro. It's too thick. I'm not trying." So he's like, "Let's just go in my trailer." And so we both went in his trailer. We turned the lights off. We sat on the ground and we shivered for an hour in the dark. It was ridiculous.
The diabetic coma lasted for 3 weeks. Was there a food-related calamity on Slam & Salmon?
There was certainly a food-related calamity in association with Slam & Salmon. Like afterwards, like when we were shooting the movie, most of it's prop food. Like I didn't even know that sort of existed in the world. When you write the script and all of a sudden you show up and some prop master has a half a semi-truck full of like fake shrimp cocktail and fake swordfish and everything. It's just amazing what prop guys just have in their trucks. And so most of that was pretty contained, and we had a kitchen connected to, whenever we needed real food, we actually had a kitchen connected to the set. The guy would make live food, send it out, and then bring it back, and it always smelled great. But for some reason, we sold Slam & Salmon afterwards to a company called Anchor Bay. And their idea of marketing was we're going to travel in the country promoting it, which we did in Dallas as well, which you were there, of food eating contests. And so kind of like the famous Kobayashi doing the famous hot dog eating contest, we were in New York City and we had all the best food eaters around the country came together to do a salmon chowder eating contest. And fortunately we weren't in it, but it was like professional eaters. And they had salmon chowder, and I can't remember what the guy who won, but you had a certain amount of time, and the guy ate 20 bowls. And he would just like this, right? It was just like downing, and I don't think you could put it to your lips, but you could take a spoon and you could go like this. And so some guy just took 20 bowls of salmon chowder and just downed it. And then it was like, there was newspaper coverage and stuff like that. It was all marketing ploy to try to get press. But all of a sudden you just see every guy darting off into the bathroom afterwards. Like they would finish it, contest is over. I think you had to maintain it for a certain amount of time. I don't think you could throw up at the table. But afterwards, everyone just ran off into the bathroom because they couldn't keep it down. And that was disgusting.
Who's the best prankster out of the group?
Best prankster? Me. That's always a stock answer. Someone said, "Who wrote that joke?" I wrote that joke. Best prankster, that's a good question. It's funny, we don't do sort of jackass pranks. We started in college, so we've known each other forever. One of the best, Lemmy's Pants, we had two funny ones. The two pranks we did, it was, I think, Jay, somehow when he was on the road, he got an 8x10 of Tony Danza. And he wrote, "Dear Steve, I've recently discovered your movies. I'm a huge fan. I hope we can meet one day. Feel free to call me." And he mailed it to Steve, so it didn't come from Los Angeles, but it came from somewhere else. And Steve got this in the mail, and he kept showing it. Like, we'd show up for writing these, he's like, "Holy shit, guys, you're not going to believe, Tony Danza sent me an 8x10 the other day saying he loves our movies, and he wants me to call him, but I don't know how to get his phone number." And we would have to be completely deadpan that we knew the whole time that it was us that sent him that. He didn't know for years. And then we thought it was funny to send, clam diggers, like the shorts that go below the knees? We thought somebody sent him a pair of clam diggers, and nothing explanation whatsoever. Just a pair of clam diggers in an envelope, and he received those in the mail one day too. He still doesn't know this.
Does he get the most mail out of the five of you guys, or it's just sets it to him specifically?
Yeah, just to him.
Okay.
It just became a joke that you just mail stuff or leave stuff with Steve Lemon.
Is there somebody you come across in your travels that you've been surprised where I am a fan of your work? I mean, because obviously you had every pothead come out for Podfest.
That was very surprising.
But is there somebody after all the years you guys have been performing and putting films together and TV shows, is there one person like, wow, I can't believe person X?
Yeah, we have a good story for that. IMDb had a 20th anniversary. On the anniversary of IMDb's 20th anniversary, they did interviews with actors, and oftentimes they would have the actor and their producing partner. They were doing one of the interviews they were showing, it was a well-known actor and his producing partner, and the question that the interviewer asked is, what movie would you would your followers be the most surprised that you like that they don't know about? That they wouldn't think that you were a fan of? And without thinking about the guys like Super Troopers. And his producing partner was like, what? Super Troopers? Like completely incredulous. And he's like, it's a funny movie. Kevin Spacey. And so we tried to get Kevin Spacey in Super Troopers too. And the story for that, if you guys have a minute. So we saw that he did this, right? We're like, oh my God, Kevin Spacey like Super Troopers? It blew our minds, right? And like, how are we ever gonna get to him? So we tried to send a copy of the script to his agent. Never heard anything, obviously, right? And they were screening a movie called Casino Jack. A movie that didn't get a wide release, but it was about Jack Abramoff. And Kevin Spacey was playing Jack Abramoff, the famous lobbyist who ended up going to prison. And Hickenlooper was going to be there, and Hickenlooper was going to be doing Q&A, and I found out that not only Hickenlooper, because Hickenlooper was going to be there, Kevin was going to come and do a Q&A. And so I said, holy shit, if I buy a ticket to AFI, I'll try to sneak backstage somehow, or somehow I'm going to find a way to get to the Q&A and try to hand a script of Super Troopers to Kevin Spacey. So I've been on a plane, when my wife and I were on a plane, and I sit next to this kid who came back with this like fedora hat. This precedes the story by about 2 weeks, so fast forward about 2 weeks before that. We're on a plane, I'm sitting next to this kid. He went to University of Texas, he's from Austin. A young up-and-coming actor. At this time, he was still in college, but he had been in a movie called The Great Debaters, and his name was Glenn Powell. I don't know if you ever heard of Glenn Powell, but so Glenn was at University of Texas at the time. Coincidentally, I just sat next to the plane, and he said, oh, wow, hey, man, we watch Super Troopers in my fraternity. And it's really cool to meet you. Kind of left it at that. That was it. Got off the plane, said our goodbyes, and that day I go to the AFI, I'm in line, I got Super Troopers 2 ready, I'm going to meet Kevin Spacey, I go get a thing of popcorn, I look over to my left, and here's this kid, Glenn Powell, from Austin, Texas, who I'd met on a plane standing there, and he's like, Stolhanske. I'm like, Glenn, wow, what are you doing here? And he's like, oh, I'm friends with Kevin Spacey, I just came to see his movie. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? And I was like, hey, I'm here to see Kevin Spacey. I found out he likes Super Troopers, and I'm trying to meet him. He's like, well, why don't you just come to the after party? We're having an after party out here, so I'll get you to it. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, yeah. So I get on the phone, I call Soder, and I'm like, Soder, you're not gonna believe this. I met this kid on a plane, I'm in a popcorn line, he's gonna get me backstage to meet Kevin Spacey. He's like, I'll be there. So we watch the movie. We go to this small little hotel room afterwards, and sure enough, Glenn from Austin, Texas, gets us into the little after party, and all of a sudden he brings Kevin Spacey over to us. And Kevin's like, hi, holy shit, Super Troopers. And you're like, oh, Kevin Spacey. And we talked for a while, but he was getting so much sort of like press because he had just finished his film, he just started his film, and there were like TV and newspapers and stuff wanted to grab him, so we only got to talk to him for about 3 or 4 minutes, but he said, send your script to my agent. I'm like, we did! He's like, you did? He's like, I haven't seen it. I'm like, I know, I'm sure you did. So it's the same old kind of thing, but he was interested. He's like, yeah, I'd love to read it, but he was going off to do King Lear or something. He was doing traveling. He was in London doing theater for a long time, and then he got House of Cards. I mean, it took us forever to get the money, and so by the time we got the money and we're ready to offer him the part, he was already like knee deep in House of Cards, and the timing didn't coincide. But that's my long story of the one actor who I was very surprised about. I forgot that guy Glenn, who I met in that plane that day. I think what was the award? Did the women that were in the space program, did that win the Academy Award last year?
Hidden Figures.
Yes, Hidden Figures.
Hidden Figures. Glenn played
No, that's not Glenn.
John Glenn.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Oh, that was that.
So we're watching it, yeah, it's an Academy Award winning movie, and there is Glenn when I'm on the airplane today.
All things go back to Glenn.
They go like Glenn. He played John Glenn in Hidden Figures.
So is he going to be in Super Troopers?
He's not. He was doing, but he got in Expendables. He became one of the guys in Expendables.
Oh.
Everyone's schedule got booked up. It's really hard. Like you go to shoot a film, it's like we're shooting in September. Like I'm booked in Romania for 6 months.
But you got Brian Cox back.
We got Brian back. We got Linda Carter back, and the young gentleman that we loved from Youngblood by the name of Rob Lowe, who's been in some great comedies. He's done Austin Powers. He's been in 3 great classic comedies: Austin Powers, Tommy Boy, and Wayne's World. Pretty good.
It's so much fun. I can't wait for this flick. Sincerely, Eric, it's a gas to have you here. Thank you so much for spending your weekend with us.
Hey, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Eric Stolhanske.
Thank you, everybody.